Right. There we go. And so you'd rather just, get an actual seller on the phone and go from there, huh?
Yeah, honestly, it's funner for me. It's the challenge of it, not kind of even knowing what I'm getting into. I mean, I don't really need to know a lot about the situation. I like to kind of dig it out of them.
Hmm.
Question based selling. I mean, it's one of my favorites.
So how do you generate, most of your leads?
Honestly, as of late, I've done most direct to agent. Right now I have my partner and girlfriend. She's recovering from a transplant, man, a kidney transplant. So she's been stuck at
Oh
home.
my God.
I taught her how to basically find the information I need and how to really kind of browse through Privy in certain areas where we're marketing. And she gives me my list, and I can call these agents. I mean, so I can go do my thing out during the day and stuff, and I can come
Hmm.
home or has this list ready for me with the agents' names, numbers, addresses, and that kind of information I need. And she'll throw cash or creative on there, so I kind of know what I'm looking at. So when I pull it up real quick, whether it's Zillow, Redfin, or on Privy, I can just kind of jump right into it, start talking to the agent, see where things are at.
Wow. It seems like everybody's going direct to agent. So it's good. I hear. So, but I have not. I've been doing, obviously direct to seller with all the cold calling. So, what do you find? Do you find it's easier to do direct to agent? I mean, just because everything's available like instantaneously for you?
Yeah, honestly, it kind of it shortens my elimination process because I can look at it and I can look if it's a cash deal. The comps is what I love the most because I like Texas myself because I'm in Texas and I'm used to
Hmm.
Texas and we're a non-disclosure state, right? So not having MLS access, prop streams awesome for lists and stuff like that, and then give you a lot of good data. But I can have actual interest rates and I can have actual transaction dates of when things were sold. So even if I don't have exact numbers, I know enough about conventional loans and FHA loans, and they tell me which is which, so I can kind of look at, hey, this is what the purchase price was, this is what the down payment probably was, if
Hmm.
this interest rate was, I kind of got an idea where my payment is, right? So before I even have to even call or ask some questions, I kind of know where my market is as far as rents or what I'm trying to do with that part of it, whether it's a pad split or short term, whatever the case may be. That helps me kind of look at it. So is it worth negotiating this? Is it kind of worth me calling if the PITI is way up there and rents are kind of down on the lower end? I don't have much of a gap. I mean, so I can kind of
Right.
eliminate having to actually call and ask some questions. I mean, so I come in kind of prepared. And for
Hmm.
me, those I can ask questions and make it easier to me to get to the point, right? To find the bunnies, as Pace says. You know what I mean? So I'm not asking a list of questions about condition or like, where the mortgage is or interest rates and stuff, kind of knocking down them pillars. I'm really
Hmm.
getting to know what's going on. That's really my approach too. Since I have that information, I can kind of jump into the conversation a little more friendly. I mean, a little less combative, a little
Right.
less information bound, right? So they're less defensive, just answering question after question after question. I mean, I kind of can approach it with agents more of a, or even when there is sellers, as long as they have the information, I can approach them more of a personal base. Hey, what's really going on with this? This is how it brought to my table. What can I do to help you? Right.
Right. And that's definitely a good way to look at it. I mean, I got one, I don't even know what to call it, warm or hot or whatever, but because I called the guy and he had bad reception. The most I got out of him was, "Hey, did you want to sell?" And he's like, "Yeah, but I need a place to go." Okay, where do you want to go? He's like, "I'm looking for a 2-1," and then gets disconnected. I'm like,
Oh,
so I was like, well, I need to capitalize on this. So I shot him a message and was like, "Hey, this is my personal cell. I'll start looking for a house for you." And he's like, "Okay, thanks, appreciate it." But yeah, definitely going with an agent. The agent should have all those pillars lined up and ready to go for you. So that's awesome. How long have you been doing real estate?
since 2018, 2019, I kind of forget, honestly, man. I found it by accident, to be honest.
Really?
Mac
How?
I like to tell people, I come from the streets, man, and I lived a really harder life growing up. And the dream for every dope boy is to be a rapper, and every rapper wants to be a dope boy, right? I was actually running the streets and stuff, man, but I know I couldn't live my life that way forever. I was tired of, kind of helping to destroy the community. I
Hmm.
wanted it to go a better way. So I got into the music thing, was doing really good with that, started growing. And I was doing my own merchandise, right? And my hands are full of ink from where I'm printing my own shirts. And a Max Maxwell commercial comes on, one of the really long ones. And I was forced to listen to it because usually I just skip through YouTube University, like everybody does. Um, we started talking about wholesaling and the concept of being able to kind of flip houses or play that middleman. And I'm like, I do this for a living with every product I've ever had. So like, it got my attention, man. And that's really how I found real estate, was just learning and growing, going against the grain.
I mean, really, that's pretty awesome because I feel like most people in that position wouldn't think to, flip things around and go, okay, how can I use the skills I've developed here and apply them there? And you've done it, and that's pretty amazing because now do you still have a W-2?
Somewhat. I'm in sales. I do solar door to door,
Hmm.
right? Which was fun. The city I'm in was about to hit deregulation as far as electricity. So it was
Right.
kind of an ideal situation to kind of hit that market at that time. But outside of that, it's mostly just been real estate. And I'm in fire alarms as well, right? So I help with
Hmm.
homeowners with, but it's not really like a punch the clock kind of thing. If I don't go out and get it, nothing comes to me, right? I got to go
Right.
really build my network and learn how to talk to people of all walks of
Hmm.
life, to help them solve them problems, whatever the case may be.
It sounds like you've pretty much been building those skills your whole life, so you're kind of set.
Um, I'm a fat kid, man. I'm actually thinner than I have been in a long time, but I started learning how to sell and to like flip and understand my skills as a kid because I was hungry in school. I started flipping baseball cards and Pokemon cards. Um,
Classic.
and yeah, I mean, I'm a classic story, man, in a lot of ways. And I'm kind of proud of it to be able to say that I've detoured from the statistics of most, man. But that's how it started. Just a fat kid was hungry and I wanted to eat. There was no way to get money, man, and I had to figure out a way to get money.
I say, well, that's what you need, and especially in wholesaling, it's all eat what you kill. You're paying your
Yeah.
own commission, so you need that hunger. So, what would you say is the hardest thing about closing a deal?
Trust, honestly. That might not be the first thing that most people think of, but if I've had people give me deals that were not their best offer or their best situation, but they did it because they liked me better, right? And liking has to do with trust, right? They people want to do business with people they enjoy spending time with, they enjoy talking to people
Hmm.
they can trust. You know what I mean? That even if they take a small loss on profit or something like that, they know they were being taken care of. They know that whatever like most of the time when they take a loss on the profit like that, they know it's because it's going to give me a gain, which is really awesome. They know that if it's a few $1,000s, maybe less than what the last person I'd offered them, that money is going to go to me and directly to me because of my transparency and the conversation, right? So that's the trust is the biggest thing that you got to try to gain, because you can be the most amazing pitcher, talker, you have the most amazing product in the world, but
Hmm.
people are scared of change and people are scared. Just as nature teaches us to be, our brains are wired that way, man. So when you can build trust and relationships, it's the biggest factor to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see that because I started calling a couple sellers that were for sale by owners on like Zillow. And so I called one guy and he was looking to sell the property for cash. And I'm more looking for the creative side because I have no clue what to do with a cash deal, to be honest. But he's like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to cash out on this so me and my brother can split it and go do this, that, and third." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll think about what we can do and I'll follow up." And so I thought about it and I actually called him today and it kind of worked in my benefit because he had spoken to another investor who was going to pay him full price, didn't even want to seem or didn't want to come see the property and didn't even seem like he really cared about what was going on. And here I am just talking like I'd never tried to like sell him creative finance. I said, well, hey, why don't you try to list this with a realtor? Why don't you try to rent it out yourself? And gave him all these different options. And by the end of our talk today, he was like, well, how can I help you? Because you've been helping me. And I was like, I don't know. Look, as long as you get a good price on the house and you're happy, that's enough for me. So that's really where it's at the end of the day is helping people.
No, that's beautiful, man. That's exactly how you do it. More often than not, even if you don't get the deal, you're gonna be the name they think of. Especially if you're staying as consistent as you are cold calling and stuff. It's really gonna help in that long run for sure. Doing everything right.
Awesome. That's good to hear because sometimes it's a struggle trying to talk to people, especially when you're not used to it and there's a lot of just from me being inexperienced, it's a lot harder to know if I'm headed in the right direction.
Yeah,
So,
well, I can say you are, man. There's a lot more no's, ever hear yeses, especially in the beginning. And it's not till you build that trust and momentum. I mean, like you can look at Pace, right? It's that trust and that he has, and that security and everything he does is going to be transparent. People are just willing to
mhm.
just throw money and throw him deals. They don't even have to hesitate. He could just ask, and the world falls at his feet, right? Because he's built that trust. You know what I mean? So you're doing everything right, man. It's beautiful to see for sure.
It's definitely it's a long journey. It's gonna be a long journey. So cool. Well, let's see. That's a good question for a closer. How many deals have you closed?
Just real estate, or I mean,
Let's start with real estate and then like in general. I'm
um,
sure you've done way more.
realm of, let's see, 20 to 25 over the past few years. And that's just lack of consistency, honestly, dude. When I get consistent and when I can get on the phone and talking to people, I should be doing a lot more. Which is part of why I'm part of doing this right now, just to kind of get myself out there again. I want to be able to help people like yourself too, man. If it's not just tips and tricks and stuff, just letting
Right.
phone calls, or jumping in and tag teaming on them, and I'm always willing to be that partner that comes in with the underwriting, and knows how to speak the lingo, and
Hmm.
knows what these people are kind of looking for, and how to ask. I've found a way to tell people what they want to hear before they're ready to hear it, in a lot of ways. So it's surprising to them, like you said, that onto the note of the trust, and giving them all the options, right? So it just makes me look more like I've done this a little while, because I have.
Right.
So it's definitely beneficial for that sense.
Yeah, it's like I'll sit over here and be talking with someone and they ask me, a question and I can't really give some third party story. I'm just like, well, let me find that answer for you and I'll come back.
Lean into that, man. Honestly, lean into that, especially while you're growing and going. Like I said, that trust part, I got a lot of deals just being honest like that. Telling them my situation. Hey, look, I can't do more than that, because I got a wife to take care of, I got medical bills to take care of, and so I pay my bills. You know what I mean? And I'm not just some major, corporation, or some, as a Daniel Kiana says it, the big billboard or the giant
Right.
website. You know what I mean? That, so I would say, and if you don't know, like you said, lean into the community too. Just lean into us, the people that do, and just be honest about that. Hey, look, my job is to really just jump on the phone to get you going and see where we're at with things, and see if we're even an option to help you. Right. So if I don't know this answer right off top, let me talk to my people. Let me make sure this is something for us spending time in too.
Hmm.
So that way you look like you're busy, and you look like you have things going on as well. So it looks like you're doing them a favor, just giving them the time of day to lean
Right.
into this. It's a mutual respect, right? You're not just that commission breath kind of thing you're chasing. I
Hmm.
mean, I just straight up tell them, hey, you know what? I don't know right now. Let me look into this. This is what I can tell you. I don't want to lie to you. Let me speak to my partners. Would it be okay if I bring them in or get back to you? Or, how can we set this up to get you this answer that you need? You know what I mean? In an honest, transparent way.
Yeah, because I definitely that definitely works and I definitely do try to keep, that in mind. But then when I get on the call, it's like I don't it's not that I'm nervous, but I feel like I have so many things just going through my mind that I'm just rapid firing and missing certain key points. Like one of the sellers I talked to the other day, he was open to terms, but I set up a script for myself so I could just like I don't read it word for word, but just so if I get lost, I can like see what questions I should be asking, see where I should be at. But he was just jumping all over the place, and I was like, "Oh man!" well, and I didn't get half the information that I actually needed to get from him. So that's definitely something I have to work on, is asking not only more questions but better questions.
If and sometimes it's okay to be like, hey, look, even if the call's going a little while, like, and you feel comfortable with it, hey, look, I didn't even mean to. I didn't expect the call to go this long. I would love to continue this. I got something to take care of. I got a couple things to do as far as homework. So if there's like you have like that questions you want to ask, you can tell them at that point. It's a way for you to kind of again make it a mutual ground. You have business to take care of, you have things to look into, and then you can turn and tell them, hey, look, well, you know, you mind getting this information for me while I do this? And when I get back to you, that way you're ready for me instead of just me
Right.
coming back to you, right? So that way you're more, again, on the mutual ground. You're not just chasing them. You look busy, that stuff going on, and you really do have the opportunity to look more into what you need. You can be more prepared. You know what I mean? So they feel like they're more prepared with their questions or whatever answers they have and stuff too. So they feel like they're, again, on the level playing field. It's not you just trying to get something from them or, you know, just questioning them and stuff like that. It's an actual negotiation at that point.
So how often are you following up with sellers?
It's really a base by base situation. If it's something hot and heavy, like if there's a bunch of offers for cash deals, I'm way more consistent with it. I will always follow up faster than I told you, right? So if I tell you 2 weeks, I'm probably following up at later end of a week and a half. Because people aren't going to remember exactly. They're not going to go into their Google Calendar. They're not going to put, hey, they're going to call me back this day. They just know you're going to call. So if you say a month out, 2 months out, call them 3 weeks, call them 2 weeks, right? But if they say specific day to call me back, call them back on that day. They give you an opening, whatever day you say you're going to call back, just call back sooner, right? That's also, they're not for the exact dates and stuff like that. And if they do, that's even awesome. And you can even just say, hey, something came up, something changed. We have some more, you know, capital available. Thought I'd reach out, kind of thing.
Right.
I mean, always pivot with those things, but I always follow up faster than I say I'm going to.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like now it's funny because making calls, it's on the dialer, so it's fine. I have no control over it. But even doing a follow-up call, I'm like, what am I supposed to say? I mean, I know the information I'm supposed to get, but how do I keep it professional and say, hey, I missed this information?
Honestly, you can just be honest about it too. Say, hey, look, I took a lot of notes. You can say your notes didn't save correctly. I mean, maybe I want to double check on these things. I've even falsified if I'm in the ballpark of like a number and I'm not positive about it. Hey, I had this down. Is this correct? You know, I just want to make sure we're looking into our stuff, doing our underwriting, whatever the case may be. And they'll give you an answer back. I mean, 9 times out of 10, they'll just throw it back at you. We're all human. And like I said, you can just blame it on technical errors and stuff like that instead of just you saying, hey, or you can even say, hey, we got into a really good conversation, because if that's the reason why you kind of got distracted or pivoted, I forgot to ask this. I mean, it's just the confidence in the way you ask the question is going to have more effect on what you actually ask, right? It's like I can walk into a home and somebody I never met and ask them for the social security number. I have no problem with it because I'm like, hey, look, I'm here for a reason. You asked me to be here, and if you want these numbers, this is what I need for it. So give me what I need. Let me be about my business. Right? It's a confidence you got to project, right? So you can ask people the most wildest question. I mean, you've seen some of Pace's calls, right?
Yeah.
But when you ask them in the comfort with it, I mean, you can't ask an old man what him and his wife did on their honeymoon, right? But you can ask an old man something funny about the war. I mean, just whatever the case may be. You're smart, man. I can already tell because you're absorbing, right? So you're going to get more used to the more calls you make. These people are going to become more. It's going to become more natural for you to be able to pivot and just be able to tell from a red, green, or I mean, the type of sellers and the personalities, also what kind of jokes and what type of, you know, way to approach the conversation. Some people do like jokes. Some people they will conversate with you for an hour about nothing and then spend 5 minutes to make the deal done. But if you don't spend, for reals, I spent one of my last deals I sold to a dude I sold it to Jared Franklin here in Lubbock. He's in sub 2 as well. One of the cash deals I did was last year. Mostly everything's been creative since then, but I stood outside of Market Street for 30 minutes just conversating, shooting the shit with this guy about golf, about his other properties, about all kinds of stuff. And it wasn't until the very end. He was like, well, hey, you know what? How about let's just meet in the middle? So I conversated with this dude for 45 minutes, 30 minutes outside of a parking lot about nothing. After I'd been following up, seeing the house, he wasn't budging. But that conversation, he said, you know what, man, let's just go ahead and work with you. I'll do you. And he dropped his price to where I needed it.
You know what I mean? But without those conversations, I wouldn't get to that part. I mean,
It's
you'll
funny
learn
how that works.
yeah. You know what I mean? So like I said, it just every situation, you're good about having the script to kind of guide you. You know what I mean? And you'll get more and more natural to where it'll just become obsolete. You know what I mean? You're gonna get to. And that's kind of the goal where I've got everybody's different, but I've noticed in closing and sales and stuff, especially when you do this consistently, for it not to drain you, you need those relationships because it becomes fun as well for you. That you feed back into them and they feed in you. I mean, I
Right.
enjoy laughing with this old man about some golf trip that I'll never hear about again. You know what I mean? But it's a cool story. It's not just, you know, two dudes at a table butting heads about numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it makes it funner. It makes it more enjoyable. And I feel like he made a friend out of it too. This old man, he didn't care about the money like that. He wasn't stupid, wasn't gonna cough it up, but he didn't need it either. You know what I mean? So it was he was willing to pay that money, right, to have a conversation with me and have some fun with me.
Right.
I mean, that's what I feel like definitely makes me different as a closer instead of just the analytical part of it. You know, just trying to make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because sales is an emotion. It's driven off emotion. Whether you're buying or selling, you got to make that emotion pivot and rise. You know what I mean? You got
That's
to make
absolutely
it.
true. Have you ever read Asking Questions the Sandler Way?
I've tried. My brain doesn't function long enough to keep up with all the lids. I've actually preached that thing more than I've followed it. I
Oh
think I
man.
followed it to a certain extent, just because it's nature. And that's really how you do it. And a lot of what I've learned is that I didn't know I was doing what I was doing. That makes sense. I mean, I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just
it does.
actually doing it. And then when it was shown to me, I was like, oh, okay, that's awesome. But for me to try to pivot and like focus on those things, I feel like it would take me back. Might help me in the long run, but I'm too stubborn right now to do that. But the Sandler submarine is awesome, dude. I do look back into it. I even have it taped on one of my desks in the office.
Mm-hmm.
So I do preach that thing more than I probably should follow it.
I mean, that's good though, because when I first read through it, it's a lot of information, it's a lot of good concepts that I had no idea about. But I was literally like, hey, this is me every time I make a decision. Like, so this is everybody every time they make a decision. But it really, like, especially when you get to how to question, for me, that is the most difficult part because I hear statements and questions, and I'm just like, oh, question, answer, statement, don't break it down, just respond to it. Like it's just not programmed into me to ask so many questions, and that's another hard part of this.
Well, you can also look at it instead of asking so many questions to get to where you want to go, ask them questions and make them tell you without having the question, right? Ask question-based selling. Question-based selling is, um, say, so if you're asking there, you're talking about trying to get why the pain point, right, in a seller, and you're trying to figure out what is going on, why they want to sell, and you ask them, hey, well, what are you looking on selling, right? And they tell you, we're moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you ask them why you're moving, it's awesome. Is it a job situation? Is it a life situation? Is it a kid situation? You know what I mean? Ask them those kind of questions instead of just asking, well, why are you moving? Instead of just why. See that little pivot. If you ask, was it a job situation? And they say no, they're going to tell you what kind of situation it is, right? That's going to give you more insight into what the problem really is, or how you can bring a solution to them. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case, whatever you're talking about with this price, right? And they say, why you gotta have cash? Is that why is there something going instead of just, why do you need money? I mean, you
Right.
got that point, but if you can kind of circle them and get them to answer it themselves, right? Well, honestly, money is important, right? Are you looking to retire soon? I mean, those kind of questions instead of just why. I mean, ask
Mm-hmm.
them to make some response instead of just yes or no. Right? Is it retirement? You mean you're looking to buy a condo? Make a joke out of it. You're looking to fly out to the Bahamas? Like, what is it? You mean you live crazy trip in Vegas? You mean your
Yeah.
response there? That's what I'm talking about. Those little things. Well, nah. What it is, man, is it? And they're gonna want to talk to you. They're gonna want to open up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, instead of you just being able to say, well, why you want to move? Well, why is the money important? Add something to that. I mean, so it's not just a yes or no. Question-based selling is making them respond with more than just a yes or no. It's just questions, but if you can simplify those questions and let them spill their guts. People love to talk about themselves.
Right.
That's why
Yeah.
talk about themselves. They listen to themselves. So when you can get them to start talking about themselves in different ways, it's going to give you all the information you want already.
You mean, or at
Mhm.
least put you in that ballpark and pivot you down that path. And it's easier to get to them questions instead of having to feel like you were asking this and you got a skirt to ask this because you got a destination here.
Right.
You know, you can kind of just take that path more scenic,
Hmm.
enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, most of the ones I come across are like, oh, I'm going into retirement and I need this to fix up a property. So, I mean, I guess what I try to ask is I try to see how much they need to do whatever repairs are going on that they like have planned.
Mm-hmm.
But I also understand that once the down payment gets too high, it's not really going to be a deal for us anymore in certain cases. So
Understood.
navigating around that is a little can be a little tricky.
Understood. So, I mean, maybe if you were to ask instead of just, how much do you need for this, instead, well, is that, ask more about the property itself. Is that a goal you've been? I mean, like I said, if it's for a different property, it might not always be a rental. It might not always be a personal home or something like that. You can kind of, depending on what they want to do to the house, you can answer your own question again, right? Because you're going to get more familiar with repairs and comps and stuff like that. So they say, hey, I want to trick out a jacuzzi and do all this other stuff. And you kind of got an idea how much money they're going to want without actually asking
Right.
them how they want, right? And, if they say, hey, well, you want to do the repairs, we got to do this and this. Well, why do you got to do that? Instead of just how much do you need? Does something happen to
Hmm.
the house? I mean, are you looking just to upgrade and flip? I mean, what's your end goal with that, right? You can kind of dig more deeper into that, because if it's, oh, I want to fix it up because the market's hot, stuff like that. Or right, if money's your biggest issue, you're looking to get, a sale price, and you can start to lean towards creative, because if that's the case, then I can give you all the money you want in the world.
Right.
Yeah, right. Is it fix and flip that you got to just get off your hands and stuff? And I mean, you can kind of, it lets you know. I mean, so if they want to do extravagant repairs, the time frame is going to be longer. They're not under the gun as much,
Hmm.
right? Between the lines, little stuff like that. I mean, it's helpful. It's get hard, but they are little things you get used to.
Right. Really just need to be more naturally curious, should
Yeah,
say. So
really good way to
yeah,
put it. Yes,
it's definitely something to work on.
like
But
a little kid has no shame when they ask a question, right? And it's not because
right.
they're just naturally curious, like you said. So ask them. I mean, just what's the case with that? Instead of just,
Hmm.
like you said, you've gotten away from the robotic part of it. Just embrace that curiosity and that not knowing. You know what I mean? And if they say, well, if you might be able to have a dude teach you how much repairs cost, and you might not even have expected it, right? Well, what's that's gonna run you, man? Like you can third party like that. Why? I got a property might be coming up down the street. Kind of sounds like what you're dealing with. What do you think that's gonna run you? So I kind of got to know an idea of what I'm looking at.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Cool.
Circumvent. And it's just third party stories don't have to be legit. They could be made up as hell. You know what I mean? Or like, I literally just came up with my top of my head, but it's just how you got to pivot. I mean, you don't have to have real facts. Buyers are liars and sellers are worse, right? So
Absolutely.
lying to them and taking their 401k or robbing their children or nothing. We're just trying to get to the bottom of the actual problem so we can bring a real solution.
Hmm.
You know? And you got to play with these people sometimes, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but you got to teach them to trust you, that you're not here
Right.
for the. You know what I mean, and I hope that would be for everybody, but it's not. And that's why they do get scared. That's why patience is a big thing. You know what I mean? So you can have them big old conversations and not talk about real estate or the house at all, and
Hmm.
then get all to the point because you've got down them barriers finally.
Yeah, those third party stories, and I feel like it's more of a lack of life experience, not so much the third party stories themselves, but when it comes to telling third party stories, if I haven't experienced it or been somehow directly involved with it, it's just way harder for me to tell that story, even if it's something I've memorized.
Understood. I was blessed with a good imagination. Let me ask you this: do you watch a lot of movies? Do you read a lot of books? How do you consume content?
Um, I used to watch a good amount of TV, but now I've been reading a lot more books. I also used to read a lot more science fiction books. So
Okay, use those. I mean, there's no difference, honestly, with a third party story from a TV show or a situation that you can kind of reenact. I mean, I don't
mhm.
care if it's space cadet or something. You mean you could say, hey, look, you know what I mean, we had to move them to Mars, but I mean, what we had to do it was this way, right? It's really the same thing at the end of the day. Is as crazy as that sounds, you can really use those people in those situations because those are what you've learned and what you've seen. You're just telling a story back, right? You're not lying. You might not have experienced directly, but most of us have it in the same sense, right?
Right.
So though you have had experiences, you had situations that have been from the norm because you have seen them, right? Even though you didn't live them, you have seen them, you heard them, you read them. I mean, use those would be my advice for that.
And that's definitely something I've never thought about. So that's a good little nugget. So are you just back to wholesaling? Are you just wholesaling? What's the end goal after that? Are you gonna move to like, buy and hold? You can start lending?
I'm in the process of wanting to get to buy and holds right now. I got hopefully maybe one or two deals that I'll have to sign. If not, I might just hang on to them myself. I'm kind of right there in that pivot point to where I can leave wholesaling. I have enough income coming in through different revenues and stuff to pay the bills.
Hmm.
And I can start to invest in that and not have to worry about the big checks once or twice a month and just start to get them little ones and let those accumulate.
Right.
So that's where I'm at right now, my friend.
Well, that's good
So
then.
too is a blessing.
So yeah, I definitely I thought I wanted to do wholesale and then just go straight into buy and hold, but now I'm like, I want to wholesale and then I want to lend a little bit and then I'll move into buying. That way, just have the basis for, especially, with the Gator community and how much you can really make just lending even small amounts on EMD, not even like on flips and whatnot. There's really a lot of money to be
Yeah, it's very surprising, honestly. He's a genius for putting that out there. Um, it's pretty awesome to be able to let people make money and get excited about real estate without having to take the same kind of, action or, risks or having the guts to stay on the phones for 4 hours like you.
made. To be honest, most of it is me sitting here waiting for a call to connect while I figure out what else to do because I can't leave the computer.
Oh no, but just that alone, man. You know how many people will make up 1,000 excuses to stay away from the front of that computer, or their gut is turning and they got butterflies, just hoping that phone doesn't even answer. You know what I mean? Like it sounds like you would rather have that thing answer and you make some progress and you sit there.
Absolutely.
That is the difference, my friend, between you and the majority of the world.
I mean, that's what everybody preaches about is just, taking action and being consistent. And I feel like I think I've been in sub two now for like 3 months, and the past 2 months have been more consistent studying. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I need to do something. So it's time to take some more consistent actions.
It's awesome, man. You should be proud of yourself. Man. Really should.
So I'm hoping we can land something soon.
Where you I haven't even asked where you mostly marketing, where you focused at.
I'm focusing on pretty much anywhere in PA because I'm in like the lower center area. So anything within 2 hours that I could comfortably drive to on a weekend without it being so much of a pain is good. And then I'll probably, once I get a couple deals and a little more cash to use for marketing, I'll probably start marketing in Maryland too. Just because I'm literally right on the border, so it just makes sense.
Yeah, convenience. Nothing wrong with
Hmm.
that at all. Especially if you're gonna do it the way you do. There's nothing. I honestly, up until recently, until Privy, when my time got so wrapped up and everything else, I was on boots on the ground. I was driving for dollars. I was on a deal machine and like I was gunning and running, dude, 24/7. I was skip tracing myself. I was doing all those things myself, and doing the cold call into text. I put my hours in for a long time. I can't do it no more.
Yeah, once I actually get to the point where like this is consistently bringing in leads, then I'll, add something else on like texting or eventually get to the point where I can hire someone else, hire VAs or literally train somebody to do what I'm doing now. So,
Long might be something for you to look at as you get better with your closing skills, man, and you start to have them leads and that confidence grow. reach out to new students and people in your area and stuff, and just like a couple of my last deals were all dead leads. One of the dead leads turned into a 5 package creative deal. Right? It was
Wow.
a long story short. He had a dead lead. Dude wanted way too much cash. I never even talked to a seller till like 4 months into this thing. And when I drug on for a little while for a lot of reasons, it was a lesson learned. But anyway, he basically reached out to me and said, "Hey man, I know you're in Lubbock, where I'm at, and these properties are here. I used to be in Lubbock. That's why I've marketed there. I got this guy a property he's looking to sell cash, but he wants way too much. Do you have a buyer for it?" I was like, this doesn't make sense at all for cash. And he was kind of sad about it. I told him, "Hey, look, what do you tell him this?" And I pitched him a quick creative deal from the numbers I've seen. And he was like, he loves it. He's got 4 of the properties. I was like, okay, cool. Let's make this crack. So that dead wholesale lead turned into 5 creative package, and I sold them all to Nick Legamara in the group, the creative guy, the note guy. Right?
That's pretty
so
awesome.
Flew out from Dallas and everything, met me, seen all the houses and all that. You know what I mean? So that's how I was getting a bunch of my deals and leads coming, because I didn't have the resources or the time to do what you're doing. So you can add that to an aspect to it, man. Like you said, you're doing plenty of this right now, this podcast and stuff. Put that out there too. Say, hey, look, I can help you guys with deals in my area, for newer students. That let me close them. Let me jump on the phone. I'm already doing it. I mean, if you're scared to, let me help you. You know what I mean? And
Right. Yeah.
I mean, add that to your belt. I mean, so you don't have to just necessarily always just pick one. You can just add them to and focus on what you're doing. You know what I mean? But throw that out there. So if something bites, just reel it in.
Right. Yeah. So since we're running out of time here, real quick, how do how are you going about asking for these dead leads? Who are you going to a specific group or?
I mass blast everything on posts. That's really what I did. All the local groups that I was already in and like kind of working and making deals in, or trying to make networks. Straight put up. I was like, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. I'm paying for dead leads. There's 2 options. Get on the phone with me. Let's talk about it. Right. And when I would get on the phone with them, I would vet them, because I didn't want to work with everybody. The Lonza method, they tell you not to really teach at all. So you do a couple of leads, they bring you a couple, and then you can start to teach. But I like to teach right away, and I don't mind teaching. But I need to know you're worth it at the same time, because my time is valuable. So if it's just a dead lead and like I don't like the people, and I got no really connections with them, I'll just try to take the lead, work on with them, pay them a fee. But that's why I try to get them on the phone first. So that initial post is real brief, real simple. Hey, look, paying for dead leads. If you're wholesalers, if your sellers are asking too much on cash, let's talk. Right? I'm able to get you paid. Let's get some deals done, or something like that. And just do it consistently and a couple of times. And some days you'll post and you'll have 80 people bite. Some days you'll post and you'll have nobody bite. But you can start to build your little network of people that you can do your Calendly stuff. 15-minute little calls, say, hey, this is what I need. This is what I need you to do. This is how I'm going to approach it. Don't waste my time if not. And just that way you're not taking yourself away from what you're doing already.
Cool. Yeah. I'm definitely going to have to keep that in mind, because I do want to work the Lonza method. So awesome. Well, it's probably going to cut us off here soon. You guys had a lot of great information, so I'm going to have to definitely take some of this and implement it. So really appreciate it.
No doubt, brother. No doubt, man. Pleasure having me, my friend.
Of course. Going to have an official podcast set up soon, hopefully. So, stay tuned. And maybe you'll come on again sometime in the future.
Man, whenever you have me, man. And you're coming on.